really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this Degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, to where you can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Welcome, you filthy Degens, to another episode of the Degen Roundtable. I will be your host for this evening. Ethereum, is it ready to break out and take the rest of the altcoin space with it? As always, we would like to thank you for joining us this wonderful evening and spending some of your time with us. Also, a big shout out to our producer, Cassie, who is, as always, working in the background. This was a very last minute decision because me and everybody else kind of saw what was going on with the altcoin chart, with the ETH chart, and I just had to get on here and talk about it and give the community my thoughts on where we could be potentially heading within the next few months, all the way into 2025 when it comes to Ethereum and when it comes to the rest of the altcoin space. If you guys notice, this is labeled as a Telegram exclusive video, so only our Telegram members, our community, gets the link to this video first and foremost. Whether we decide to publish this to the rest of YouTube will be decided on at a later date. But as like we promised, our community always gets the alpha first, and they will get the analysis and the on the scene thoughts of our team. They will get it first. So without further ado, I think, the question that a lot of people have asked for the majority of 2023 and really 2024 is, when does alt season start? Is it alt season yet? Because for the most part, it seems like whenever the alts get a little bit of tailwind, we always tend to get blue balled, right? And one of the things that I'm going to be going over here primarily during this video is how actually, we just got a message here from Sniper. He's asking, where is everybody? Did Snipe click on the right link? So let me actually see if we're live. Oh, no, we actually are. Yeah. So Snipe, everybody's here. You just have to click on that link. So hopefully you clicked on the correct link. But going back to my point, one of the things that I want to go over here with you guys is, how do you basically get blue balled into thinking that it is alt season when it really isn't, right? So there's a tendency for people to focus on one thing, right? They have this hyper fixation on price. And even though price is a good metric, right? If price is up and to the right, you could have a reasonable confidence that we are in a bull market. But when it comes to the altcoin space in Ethereum, right, specifically, one of the things that we as a team, in particular, like me and Dace, have been kind of hammering home to our community during our Telegram Tuesday calls, is that it's a lot better for you to pay attention to the ETH Bitcoin valuation when determining, is it time for alt season to start, right? And the reason for that is because unlike price, or at least in our opinion, it's a better metric of how what the overall health of the altcoin space is, right? Because predominantly the market is going to be led by Bitcoin. And if you take a look at the ETH Bitcoin valuation, if that chart is down and to the right, then you could bet that the overall altcoin space, basically Ethereum and everything else down the risk curve, is they're also going to be down in terms of their Bitcoin valuation, right? And what that does is it inevitably is reflected in the price chart in US dollar terms, right? Which is why throughout all of 2023 and into 2024, every single time you see a pump on the chart and you're like, whoa, the USD valuation of my portfolio is going up, inevitably it goes back down. I think, I'm not going to be alone in saying that some of the assets that we've held throughout this bull market have given back most, if not all of their gains, and some assets, even the good ones, have basically made new they made new lows in the bull market, right? Even lower than the lows that they made during the bear market, right? And if you took a look and if you really focused on the ETH Bitcoin valuation, you're much less likely to be caught in that trap. So that's one of the main things that we're going to go over today, right? We're going to take a look at the ETH Bitcoin valuation, where it's at currently, and why, in my personal opinion, I think it's about time for it to actually break out. And we're also going to be taking a look at some of the other metrics for altcoins, right? In particular, we're going to take a look at Total 3, right? Which is the entire altcoin space minus Ethereum and Bitcoin. And then we're also going to look at the others chart, which is the cumulative market cap of all of the altcoins below the top 10, right? So you really take out the biggest hitters, Bitcoin and Ethereum for one, but you also take out stuff like stable coins, right? Because like stable coins like USDT and USDC take up a considerable chunk of the top 10 market cap. So the others chart is actually a good chart to take a look at when you want to take a look at the health of the altcoin space that is a little bit further higher up the risk curve, right? And then obviously we're also going to be taking a look at the ETH USD chart, because we're going to be doing some price predictions and price analysis, because I know that people want to be able to scratch that itch. So first, let's go ahead and take a look at the ETH BTC chart. So I'm going to go ahead and share this so that Mrs. Producer can bring up my screen. Give me 1 second. Here we go. There's that. Share screen. Here we go. All right, wonderful. So we are on the weekly chart here on the ETH BTC chart. And what you can see here is that ETH Bitcoin is finally, once again, making a test of this downward sloping parallel channel, right? And that's actually one of the reasons why I think that ETH Bitcoin and the rest of the altcoin space are headed for a breakout, right? So not only are we testing this parallel channel here, right? What I also want you guys to consider is, number one, we just finished the US elections, right? And Donald Trump is going to be the 47th president of the United States. The reason why that's so bullish for altcoins is, remember, risk on assets like certainty. There's a reason why in all of 2024, gold was making new all-time highs. Nate spoke about this yesterday during our Whiskey Wednesday stream, and he pointed out that gold has had its first week in the red since, like, I can't tell you when, right? And that's because for the overwhelming majority of 2024, gold has been making new all-time highs, right? Gold has spent its first week in the red. Further, he also spoke about the Russell 2000, which is the traditional market's proxy for higher risk assets. And the Russell 2000 is like making some great headwinds. It has some great tailwinds underneath it, right? It's finally going up into the right. And the reason for that is that once you have certainty in the market, then people are now much more confident rotating into those higher risk assets, right? And Donald Trump, hate him or like him, what he has done is that he has established himself as the pro-Bitcoin, pro-crypto president, right? And so at the very minimum, we can expect that he is not going to present any headwinds when it comes to the adoption of this space in the West, right? We know that For example, Cynthia Lummis yesterday, or I think actually it was a little bit earlier today, spoke about how she is now going to start working on drafting a proposal to take to Donald Trump about that strategic Bitcoin reserve, right? We know that if he follows through on his promise to fill his cabinet with people like Vivek Ramaswamy or RFK, if he follows through with allowing Elon Musk to create that, the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, we know that most likely that strategic Bitcoin reserve is going to play a big part in that, right? Especially if you have somebody like RFK who's very pro-Bitcoin in there, somebody like Vivek who's very pro-Bitcoin and very pro-crypto in there. And although Elon Musk really, we know that Tesla has Bitcoin holdings, right? But really, the most involvement that we see from Elon Musk is his involvement with Doge, right? But what you can be confident in is that Elon Musk is pretty adamant about decreasing government spending, right? And making it so that we stop devaluing the currency of the United States, right? Which is the US dollar. And so even though he might not be as adamant or as pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin as some of the other people that can potentially be funneled into Donald Trump's candidate, we know that on a broad spectrum basis, all of these people that he's basically been surrounding himself with, right, for the entirety of his campaign are either pro-crypto or they're fairly neutral, right? I mean, look at his family. Melania has her own NFT series. Trump has his own NFT series. Barron, I think Barron is their youngest son, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if they have a younger one than Barron, but Barron is fairly involved in crypto, right? Because he's one of the younger guys there. Eric and Don Jr. are much older, so they're more involved in the traditional stuff, right? So at the very minimum, we know that a Trump presidency is not going to present any kind of headwind for crypto, right? So that's a big certainty in the market, which is why you saw such a significant pump within the altcoin space on the eve of the election, right? Bitcoin hit new all-time highs, but we also saw a lot of the altcoins really start running, right? Number two, we just had the FOMC this morning, right? And Jerome Powell and the Fed dropped the rates by another 25 basis points. So that is going to inject a lot more certainty in the market. Why? Because it basically reinforces the sentiment that Jerome Powell laid out during our last FOMC meeting, right? And that is that inflation is down, it's staying, and it's hovering and possibly going down towards that 2% goal. The labor market has cooled off. Unemployment, even though some people are worried that it's high, it's actually at a very reasonable and acceptable rate, historically speaking. And so we can now continue the process of quantitative easing, right? QE. And so he decided we're going to cut, everybody decided, right? All of the FOMC decided that they were going to cut 25 basis points, right? So that injected even more certainty into the market, which is why you saw Ethereum, right, for the first time in a very long while, right, on the daily. If you just took a look at the daily, right, it actually outpaced Bitcoin in terms of percent gains, right? We don't have the Bitcoin dominance chart pulled up right now. We'll probably take a look at that sometime on Sunday. We took a look at it on Tuesday, Telegram exclusive again. Right? We took a look at that on Sunday. So Bitcoin dominance actually broke below 60%, right? It had a high of close to 61%, right? So Bitcoin dominance down. Ethereum Bitcoin is now testing this parallel channel, right? And you saw the rest of the altcoin space running. As far as percent gains goes, right? Bitcoin didn't close too high above the high that it made yesterday. So all of the gains in the market today were basically from Ethereum and from the rest of the altcoin space, right? And this is reflective of that. So like I said, we're testing here this downward sloping channel that we've been trading in for the majority, right, of this year. And if Ethereum manages to break out of this channel, then the altcoin space is going to get even more bullish. The next target that I would like to see from Ethereum specifically when it comes to the ETH BTC valuation is a retest and possibly regaining of this horizontal resistance here, which is putting us at 0.04, right? Not only is that horizontal resistance, but that is also a psychological area of resistance, right? People tend to trade whole numbers, even though technically this isn't a whole number, but 4 is, right? And the reason why that would be even more significant is, let's actually go ahead and take a look at this on the daily chart. Right? The reason why that 0.04 level is important for Ethereum to reclaim is that not only is it psychological and horizontal resistance, it would actually, for the first time in a very long while, would establish a higher high trend, so a trend reversal for ETH BTC, right? If you guys have been have taken a look at this, even if it was just like a cursory glance, what you're going to notice is, like, you can go all the way back to like the end of 2021, right? The end of the 2021 bull run. From then, you could see, actually, we could go ahead and take a look at it right now. Right? So we go all the way back here to 2021, right? So we had a top here for ETH BTC in December 2021. And if we go, you could see, what do we have? We have lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, right? So collectively, ETH BTC has been on a downtrend since December of 2021, right? Which is why the altcoin space, even though we've had some really nice gains in some alts, right? And in some sectors, for the most part, they have not been able to sustain those gains for the long term, right? Like we said earlier in the beginning, a lot of them have given back a significant portion of the gains, and some have even made new all-time lows, right? Bear market lows. Now, any scrub off the street can tell you, well, my special snowflake altcoin is doing really well against Bitcoin. And yes, that's definitely true. But that is the exception to the rule. The rule is until most likely post-halving year, the ETH BTC valuation, and you can extend that to the rest of the altcoin space, they're going to be down into the right against Bitcoin, and that will reflect on their US dollar valuations, right? And so the reason why it's very significant that Ethereum regain the 0.04 level is because that would establish the first higher high, right, that we've had in quite a significant period of time, right? So it would be the first trend reversal for that pair, for Ethereum, Bitcoin specifically, since 2021, right? So that's extremely significant. And once we regain the 0.04 level, then I think that's when you can be super confident that, okay, man, altcoins are really starting to get like a significant tailwind behind them, right? And then finally, once that's recovered, really the next major area that you would want to see ETH Bitcoin recover is this downward sloping trend line, right? That's the trend line that we just basically took a look at that's been down and to the right since 2021. So at a certain point, after ETH BTC reclaims 0.04, then you would want it to start interacting with this trend line and eventually break through it, right? That's when you can be confident that this downtrend is over, right? Because like you're going to have small pumps every once in a while, but until you reverse and establish a new trend, then it's just basically a pipe dream for altcoin season, right? So those are the first few things that I wanted to take a look at, right? So Trump presidency, FOMC, consistent with we're going to keep heading with QE, right? ETH Bitcoin breaking out of this downwards channel and starting to close above it. So those are all like bullish for Ethereum. Now let's go ahead and transition to the other chart. So we're going to take a look at total 3 and others. Let me actually go ahead and pull that up from right here so I don't have to keep switching screens. Let's go ahead and take a look at total 3. Total 3. Here we go. There we go. So once again, total 3 is everything, the market cap for everything besides Bitcoin and besides Ethereum, right? So everything below Bitcoin and Ethereum. And what you can see here, right? Total 3 is actually looking extremely good. And the reason for that is, one, we've broken out of this long-term downward sloping trend line that we started in March of 2024, right? And so not only did we break out of this trend line, right? We've actually also started making higher highs, right? We broke out of this trend line. We punched through our last high back here in the 3rd week of August, right? And we made this higher high. And right now we are making our 3rd higher high. So what you can see here, right, is you have a reversal of trend because you're getting higher lows and you're getting higher highs, right? So with all of this bullishness in the market, it's not a surprise that Total 3 is continuing to break out in this fashion, right? Again, this is reflective of what Ethereum is doing as well, right? Ethereum started to challenge that downward sloping channel, right? Total 3 and the rest of the altcoin space are responding in kind. Now, take a look at the others chart. I know this is one of the favorite charts that Degens like to look at because it is the higher risk assets. But you see how the others chart, even though they're the assets below the top 10 in market cap, look how similar it looks to Total 3, right? Right. The fact that this chart looks so similar to Total 3 is, again, representative of the fact that Ethereum is starting or making an attempt, right, to start outpacing Bitcoin in terms of the gains, right? Total 3 here, very similar story, a break of the downward sloping trend line that we started forming since March of this year, right? A break of the downtrend. We punched through our last high back here in the 3rd week of August, right? And now we are attempting to break into our 3rd higher high, right? So very similar structure here to Total 3. You have higher lows, and then you have higher highs, right? A little bit lagging when it comes to, like, for example, if you go back to Total 3, Total 3 is already at its 3rd higher high. Others is only at its 2nd higher high, still trying to attempt to make that 3rd higher high. Again, right? These are going to be a little bit more lagging because people want a little bit more certainty, a little bit more confidence that it's time to be risk on, right? Which is why everything down the risk curve below the top 10 in market cap, they're still lagging slightly, right? Yes, we are bullish, but people are not going to be completely risk on until probably way later on in Q4, once we get a few more FOMCs in our bags and JP establishes that whole, yes, we're going to keep going with QE. Also, here's another thing that I want you guys to keep an eye out for, right? So on the eve of the elections, we got news that Vladimir Putin was getting ready to have a talk with Donald Trump, right? So again, markets like certainty. If Vladimir Putin was like, yo, DJ, I need to talk to you, right? I know that you don't want this shit going down with Ukraine the same way that we don't, right? Can you do something? Can you help us out? Basically settle things. So if you get a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine, if you get like some calmness between Israel and Palestine, then you've got another variable that injects certainty into the market, right? Because for most of this year, people were panicking. I mean, you could literally track this on the charts. Every single time we had news of like an attack here, an attack there, like what have you, you could see it reflected on a chart. Just price just taking a dump. So if you were to get like some like a diffusion of the tension between Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Palestine, then you can bet that all of the charts that we've looked at so far, ETH, Bitcoin, Total 3, others, they're going to start breaking. They're going to start breaking structure here from the lower lows and going to really establish this new trend of higher highs and higher lows, right? So that's it for total 3 for others and for ETH BTC, right? So again, just to kind of reiterate, the reason why me and Dace in particular really harp on people to take a look at ETH Bitcoin is because it is representative of it's a good proxy for the health of the altcoin space, right? And if you were taking a look at ETH Bitcoin and you're like, whoa, this thing is not breaking the lower high structure. It's actually making new lows. You're going to, you would have been in the mindset, just like I was, and just like probably Dace was, that, okay, we probably need to take advantage of any significant pump within the altcoins, take profits, at the very minimum, de-risk positions, because until this trend reverses, like it's doing now, as we've just gone over during the first half an hour of the stream, until we get that trend reversal in ETH Bitcoin, then what's likely going to happen is that altcoins are going to pump. They're going to give back the gains, if not more, right? And if you basically were caught bag holding because you thought, oh, now it's time for alt season, I'm not going to de-risk, I'm not going to sell out of this position because it's going to go to the moon, up and to the right forever, right? Wag me. You would have been caught bag holding, and you would have rode a lot of these altcoins back down to lower prices than what they just started with in the bear market, right? Or at the very minimum, your bags are probably down anywhere between 50 to 75%, right? Very few exceptions to that rule, right? Stuff like Solana. Solana is probably despite what you might think of it, Solana has been one of the winningest trades of this entire cycle. Solana is one of the few altcoins in the space that you could point at and yeah, man, this thing has done pretty well, right? But that's not the case for the rest of the altcoin space. So if you were taking a look, if you were paying attention at the ETH Bitcoin valuation, you would have been much less likely to be caught bag holding. You would have taken some profits. You would have most likely, at the very minimum, de-risked, right? And you would have preserved the buying power of your capital, and you would be in a much better position now, right? When ETH BTC is finally starting to break out, Ethereum finally starting to outpace Bitcoin, right? We're in Q4 of the halving year. Santa rally on the way, you would be in a much better position right now to rotate those profits into those higher risk altcoins, right? So again, I'm going to say like a broken record, pay attention to more the dollar valuation of the market, right? Because it's only going to make you not only a better investor, right? But it's going to save you a lot of freaking heartache, man. It's going to allow you to sleep better at night and not go about your day so anxious that you have to check your phone every 2 minutes, right? So that's it for ETH Bitcoin. Now let's go ahead and actually do what probably a lot of people want to see. They want to look at the price analysis, right? What are our targets for the rest of Q4, for Ethereum, for the altcoins, and for 2025? So let me go ahead and bring up Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind, I'm going to stop sharing this screen and I'm going to share a new tab. Give me 1 second. I keep forgetting that it's not automatic. Present. There we go. Share screen. Boom. Alrighty. Here we go. ETH USD. We finally get to, after how long have we been going here, Mr. Producer? We've been going for half an hour and we finally get to the ETH USD chart, right? But I want to give people the substantive meat and potatoes first before I give them the dessert. Okay, so ETH Bitcoin finally making a breakout. So what is significant about the ETH USD chart that we have right here, right? 2 things that I want to bring to your attention. Number 1, this parallel channel should be familiar to most of you because this parallel channel also exists on our Bitcoin USD chart, right? But unlike Bitcoin USD, which has reclaimed, in fact, it's actually punched through the upper bounds of that channel, right? Because it made new all-time highs. Up until this point, Ethereum has still remained trading under this channel since we lost it back here in July, right, of this year. And finally, for the first time since July, right? Actually, no, for the first time since middle of August, right? We have finally tested and broken above that parallel channel that we lost back here in July. Again, so bullish. Number two, we are now finally trading above this downwards sloping trend line that we have formed since the high here back in March. What was our high here back in March? It was like 4,000 plus change, right? Almost $4,100 for Ethereum for our high here back in early March, right? So what we've done is we basically gone down and to the right, right? Lower highs and lower lows for Ethereum since March. And we are finally, since when was the last time we had a test of this trend line? The last time we had a test of this trend line was back in July, right? Before we actually collapsed down here in August, early August, back to like we almost broke 2,000, right? We got super close to breaking below 2,000, but that wick was just bought up. I don't know if you guys remember the story here, but this story here, how the wick was bought up so quickly. Apparently, like people in North Korea, right? Like the Lazarus group had like fucking limit order set down here. And as soon as Ethereum hit 2,000, that shit just went right back up because North Korea bought all of the Ethereum down here. So I thought that was pretty funny, right? So Ethereum is finally testing and now trading above this downward sloping trend line since basically its last retest back here in July, right? So like bullish in terms of the ETH Bitcoin valuation and bullish in terms of price action for Ethereum. What I would like to see from Ethereum, right? Obviously, you would like to see consecutive closes above this channel and above this trend line. But what I would really like to see from Ethereum is for Ethereum to actually take, right? Technically speaking, Ethereum does have a higher high and a higher low structure, right? So technically speaking, we have gotten that trend reversal for Ethereum. However, if we toggle on, let's actually go here to the daily chart. And I'm going to go ahead and toggle on our 60-day cycles. Oh, that's not right. Where are my 60-day cycles? Here we go. Right. What would really get me bullish for Ethereum is if we broke the high here, our last high within this channel back in July of 2024 at 3,562, right? So this would allow Ethereum to get super bullish because not only does it mean Ethereum is trading above the midpoint of our parallel range, right? But Ethereum has basically reclaimed, the higher low structure that it's been trying to form, right, since our high here back in March, right? So a break of this, the midpoint of this channel, and taking the last 60-day cycle high here back in the third week of July would allow Ethereum to get extremely super bullish, right? Let's see here. As far as 60-day cycles are concerned, right? Here's another reason why I am so bullish for Ethereum right now and the rest of the altcoin space. All right. We got a cycle low here on day 59, right? I know a lot of people are thinking we're probably going to head into the extended cycle. And the reason why I don't think we are in an extended cycle, right? We are actually well into the next 60-day cycle. The reason why I am of that opinion, there's several reasons, right? Number one, for an extended cycle, what I am looking for extended 60-day cycles, right? So a high beyond day 50, beyond day 60, all the way up into the day 70 or so, right? What you're looking for is when you make new highs within an extended 60-day cycle, what you're actually looking for is a decrease in volume, right? You're not only looking for a decrease in volume, but you're also looking for divergence, bearish divergence to start forming on the chart. But what did we get, right? Not only did we sweep this prior low here, right? Signifying that this was the end of the 60-day cycle. What you're also seeing here is not only are we getting, right, upwards movement in price, you're also getting this upwards movement in volume, right? Very uncharacteristic for extended cycles. Again, what you're looking for is when price makes a new high, you're looking for a lower amount of volume. And then let's take a look at the RSI. What you're looking for is bearish divergence on the RSI. What are we on right now? We are at 67.9 on the RSI. What was the high back here? So as we speak, right, today's price action actually just crushed the bearish divergence that was forming on the daily chart for Ethereum, right? So higher volume on the daily, significant because it's a large time frame. You knocked out the bearish divergence, right, for price. So this is making me a lot more confident, right? Sorry, not for price, for momentum, right? This is making me a lot more confident that we do have the cycle low in here, day number 59, and we are heading into the next 60-day cycle, which would take us from now till basically the tail end of December, right? If we extend this here, so theoretical ending of this next 60-day cycle is the 3rd of January, 2025. That's when I would start looking for our next cycle low. Until the charts tell me otherwise. I am going to assume that the seasonality of markets stays intact. I'm going to assume that since we are in the Q4 of the halving year, that we are going to get the Santa rally, right? And so I am going to assume that we are going to head into higher prices well into the end of Q4, right? So another right translated cycle, and I'm not going to start looking for a cycle low until the very tail end of the cycle, which is going to be the first week of January 2025. Now, that's it for the time aspect. Now let's get to what everybody loves to see. What are our price targets to the upside? So we're going to go ahead and take a look at trend using Elliott waves. Let's go ahead and go back here to the weekly because it's a lot easier to see. I'm going to go ahead and turn off all of the drawings here because it's just messy. Take out the consolidation range. Let's hide. Yep. Let's take out the trend lines here. So we can do strictly Elliott waves. So a few bullish scenarios that I'm working with here in terms of Elliott wave pattern, right? I'm going to give you first the less bullish scenario and actually what I would consider the more unlikely scenario for price, right? So the least likely, least probable bullish scenario for Ethereum is we are actually in what you would call in Elliott wave an expanding diagonal structure, right? And the reason why it's an expanding diagonal structure is if this is indeed the correct count, and I'm pretty fucking confident that my count is correct, right? For those of you who know Elliott wave, you know that one of the cardinal rules for wave 4 is that it cannot overlap with the price action of your wave 1. And what happened when we made this wick over here is that you entered the price territory of your wave 1, which is a big no-no for traditional impulses. So what we have left as a potential is a diagonal, which is also a 5-wave move to the upside, right? And the only thing that's different is that there is going to be overlap between your waves, right? Which means your wave 4 can and does enter the price territory of your wave 1, right? And still complete the impulse to the upside, right? So only in the diagonals can that cardinal rule of Elliott wave impulses be broken, right? But the reason why I think that this is the less likely scenario is because if this was indeed a diagonal, what you're seeing here are the bounds of the structure expanding, right? You see the highs and the lows here? Look at the price action. You're expanding the bounds of this diagonal. And in Elliott wave, an expanding diagonal is never preferred. We never assume that it's an expanding diagonal unless all other possibilities have been eliminated, right? So yes, is it possible that we have an expanding diagonal here for this cycle for Ethereum? Yes. But until other scenarios have played out, this is your most low probability scenario. But if it is an expanding diagonal, then here are our targets. So what are our price targets for Ethereum at the very end of this bull market if it was indeed an expanding diagonal? What you could do is you could take your fib extension taken from the very start of your wave 1 to the end of your wave 3, pulled down to the end of your wave 4, and the more common extensions for your wave 5 here is between the 0.05 and the 0.786 fib levels, right? Which would put us at a very pitiful $4,200 to $6,100 for Ethereum. Now, I don't think, even if this was an expanding diagonal, I am of the opinion that we're not going to get a $6,000 Ethereum, because for an expanding diagonal, the higher, like the end of wave 5 would expand the bounds of your range, right? And so my upper targets for wave 5 of an expanding diagonal for an Ethereum is actually going to be somewhere in the area of $8,000 to $13,000 for Ethereum, right? So that 1-for-1 extension puts us at $8,200, right? But more likely, we are going to get something in between $11,000 Ethereum for your wave 5, right? That's why the wave 5 here is in between the 1.236 and the 1.382 extension, right? It's going to put us in the range of $11,000 and $13,700 for Ethereum, right? And in terms of timeline, you're probably going to see this price somewhere by, if we get a very truncated bull market in terms of time, you probably see it top out at end of March, right? End of Q1, early Q2 of March, right? If we had a truncated bull market in terms of time. But more likely you see the price, you see prices between $11,000 and $13,000 Ethereum sometime in late Q3, early Q4 of 2025, before we finally start heading back down into the bear market, right? So this is one of the bullish scenarios that I'm taking a look at for Ethereum, but it's the lowest probability bullish scenario, right? But I have to talk about it with you guys because we do have the structure that you would see for a diagonal in Elliott waves. So I had to talk about it with you guys, right? I can't ignore it because it's like sitting right in front of me. Now, what is the more probable scenario and the basically more bullish scenario for Ethereum? Well, for the more bullish scenario for Ethereum, what you have is what you would call a double 1-2 pattern, right? So in the first scenario that we had, right, in that diagonal, we had your wave 3 and the wave 4 for Ethereum already in, right? But for a double 1-2, what you have is a macro wave 1 in, a macro wave 2 completed. However, this macro wave 3 is actually yet to come in, right? That's why we call it a double 1-2, because you have a 1-2 macro finish to start, but you have a 1-2 in a lower degree here, right? 1-2, 3 yet to come in, 4, 5 yet to come in. And once this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 impulse to the upside finishes, then that would finish your macro wave 3, which would probably be sometime in the tail end of Q1 of next year, early Q2, possibly, right? That's when you would expect the wave 3 to be in for Ethereum in a double 1-2 scenario. Wave 4, you're probably going to look for your wave 4 sometime in the summer of Q2, right? Q2, between Q2 and Q3, right? Once again, seasonality tends to affect markets. And then you're looking for this blow off top in the altcoin space sometime in Q4 of next year, probably September to November, around that time frame, right? So what are our targets for this turbo bullish scenario? Let's take our trusty fib extension pattern, right? Your fib extension taken from the start of your wave 1 to the end of your wave 1 to the bottom of your wave 2. What is our big macro target for our wave 3? So common extensions for your wave 3 are as follows: the 1.618 and the 2.618 fib extensions. That would put Ethereum in the price range of $4,718, right? Which is not yet a new all-time high, close to it, but not yet, to, and all the way up into basically $10,000 Ethereum, right? $9,500. Now, you guys know I'm an inherently very conservative investor, so I have to give you, I can't just give you the moon maths. I have to give you the more reasonable targets for price. And so I am targeting somewhere in between the 1.618 to 2.618 fib extensions, putting Ethereum's price at the end of this wave 3 impulse between $4,700 to $9,500, right? And if this thing really starts being bullish, right, you get extreme, you get money printer go burr, you get Department of Government Efficiency running hot, right? Like Elon Musk basically firing a lot of the federal government, right? So they don't have to fucking spend so much on administration. You got crypto regulation well in place, right? Gary Gensler out of office. You got Richard Hart winning his case against the SEC, which would basically set legal precedent for the rest of the altcoin space, right? I guarantee you right now, everybody and their mother, everybody that was hating on Richard Hart will be singing his praises if his case set precedent for the rest of the altcoin market, right? So you get all of that, and you could get Ethereum running as hot for this wave 3. Shit, man. 3.618 for wave 3, $20,000. You won't see me complaining. But again, more reasonable is to expect Ethereum to head somewhere in between the 1.618 to the 2.618, which is going to place you anywhere between $4,800 Ethereum to $9,500 Ethereum. All right. So those are your price targets for the remainder of Q4 all the way up into Q1 of 2025, which is where I expect this wave 3 impulse to head into before starting to lose some steam, before we head into a consolidation downwards phase during the seasonality of markets once again, right? Like we always do. All right. And that, my friends, is basically it. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen here. So short and sweet. That ran us about 50 minutes for the analysis. As always, thank you very much for joining us this wonderful evening. We know that time is your most valuable asset, so we do appreciate that you spend some of that time here with us. I will reiterate that this is a Telegram exclusive stream. It will only be available for our community members first and foremost. So if you want to get in on this action, number one, like the damn video, comment, subscribe to Degen Roundtable, scan. Oh, we don't have the QR code, but if we had the QR code, we should we'll get it up there. But oh wait, hold up. I think Mrs. Producer is gonna pull up the QR code. Mrs. Producer, do you have the QR code by chance? But if you don't, that's oh, there we go. Scan the damn QR code. That'll get you into our free Telegram group where you can catch all of the alpha such as this that we only make available for our community members, right? Again, want to reiterate, whether we publish this to YouTube or not is yet to be determined. So if you want to get in on this alpha, then jump into our Telegram channel and you'll be well on your way to making mad gains. So you can find me on X at P90_P90Hex, on Instagram at agent_JShroth. Our next stream is going to be tomorrow, Friday, book club, actually, with Will, Zenith, and the rest of the usual suspects. And then we have our Sunday episode as usual. So until then, take care. And remember, Degen responsibly.